Yes, I did watch Ryan Garcia's victory over Javier Fortuna last weekend. I thought that it was an adequate performance against that level of opponent. I thought Garcia was a bit deliberate with his setup of the left hook. It worked, obviously, but against someone like a Tank Davis, who he called out after the fight, I'm not so sure it would be as effective, and it might even cause issues for him. Now, when I say deliberate, he was using his right hand, and Ryan Garcia, of course, is an orthodox fighter, so he stands with his left hand and left foot forward. But he was using his right hand in the same way that an orthodox fighter would normally use their left hand to jab with. It was just, well, when I say that, some fighters use their jab as an actual weapon to bust people up. But a lot of the time you'll see fighters using their jab to set up the backhand, using the front hand for an orthodox fighter, that's the left, to set up the backhand, which is the right. Garcia's best punch is the left hook. So he was doing the opposite. He was using the right hand almost like a setup, right? Not really much power on it in order to get that left hook going. Now, I want to direct you towards a video made by Boxing on the Edge. He's one of the members of the Boxing Brotherhood. And he did a video talking about the left hook. And one of the ways that you can get more power on the hook is to throw a right hand first, because it pushes the left shoulder back. And then you have more room to actually get velocity on your left hook. Okay. And it also puts your hips in a square position. And then again, you generate the power from your legs and your hips. And there's more room for that left hook to move, more distance for it to travel to get more velocity on it, as I just explained. But that is a tell for your opponent. When they see the right hand coming, and it's only really a placeholder of a right hand, well, now they know the left hook is coming. Now, obviously, the key and the trick that Ryan Garcia was using was to not throw the left hook all the time right after the right hand. Just throw the right hand out there. Obviously, he's fighting a southpaw, and generally with southpaws, people like to throw a lot of straight right hands down the pipe. So Garcia was throwing the right hand, and he wasn't always following up with the hook. In fact, most of the time he wasn't. He was looking for certain angles. He was looking for certain, I guess, distress signs first from Fortuna, or certain mistakes from Fortuna before he decided to follow up with the hook. So there's an element of randomness to it, not knowing exactly. You know that that left hook is coming. That's why he's throwing the right hand in the way that he is. You're not quite sure when. But a guy like Tank Davis, who has a much higher ring IQ than someone like Javier Fortuna, and just is a better fighter all round, more powerful, faster, better coordination, just better all round. Again, I'm not sure how effective that's going to be against Davis, and I suspect a guy like Garcia, who's very straight up, will be, I don't want to say easy, but there's a lot of things there that I think Tank Davis can take advantage of, with the fact that Garcia is so straight up. You know, seeing him against the southpaw in Fortuna, how deliberate he was trying to set up the left foot. Do you know what I mean? So anyway, I'll talk about that in a separate video if and when the fight gets made. It doesn't look likely at the moment, because now we come to the main subject of the video, and that is the fact that Floyd Mayweather, who is apparently still Gervonta Davis's promoter. We had heard from Davis that the last fight that he had was going to be his final one with Mayweather Promotions, and he was then going to be a free agent. But Mayweather is talking as if Tank isn't a free agent. And I have heard that there's some dispute about whether Tank is a free agent. So make of that what you will. Now, Mayweather has said that he can make the Tank Davis Ryan Garcia fight by the end of the year, as long as Ryan Garcia agrees to fight 135 pounds. And the justification for this is that when he fought Ryan Garcia's promoter, Oscar De La Hoya, back in the days, he sacrificed. He said that De La Hoya picked the gloves, he picked the judges and the ref and the ring size and everything. Mayweather had to give up all these different things to Oscar De La Hoya because he wanted the opportunity to prove himself and prove that he was the better fighter. And after he beat De La Hoya, of course, Mayweather went from strength to strength in terms of commercially, right? His purses were exponentially upwards from that point on. So Mayweather says Garcia's got to do the same. He's got to make a sacrifice, just like I made a sacrifice when I fought Garcia's promoter. So you guys, let me know what you think about that in the comment section below. One thing I'll say is, and obviously Ryan Garcia for his last fight against Fortuna was at 140. Can he still make 135? He's a big guy, he's 5'10". Still young though, and that's one of the things that Mayweather says. He says if he was dealing with an older fighter, then he might be more understanding with regards to him not wanting to come back down to 135. And in fact, Mayweather kind of makes a mistake and says he just fought at 135. Actually, no. Ryan Garcia fought at 140 against Fortuna. So yeah, he said he would be a bit more understanding if this was an older guy, because as you get older, your metabolism slows and it's more difficult to lose weight and so on. But, and also, you know, you're going to gain a certain amount of muscle over time. Your muscles will get denser and heavier when you're moving into your 30s. So, yeah, these are the reasons that Mayweather gives for having this stipulation that it must be 135 pounds. Well, Tank Davis himself has fought 140 pounds. You go over and look at his record here on BoxRec. By the way, I don't like the new makeover that BoxRec have given their website. I think it looks far worse than how it was before. Anyway, that's an aside. Tank Davis, or I always think of his name when I say Tank Davis, Stank Davis, as some people like to call him. People are bad man on the internet, but I do find that one funny, Stank Davis. He fought Mario Barrios at 140 pounds back in 2021. So, you know, he's fought at that weight division. And so Ryan Garcia's argument, surely, and Oscar De La Hoya's argument would be, you fought Barrios for the WBA 140-pound title. Why can't you fight Ryan Garcia at 140 pounds? You see it. So let's see what happens. Garcia calling out Tank Davis. I think it's a good look from Ryan Garcia. And I think it's a really bad look for Tank Davis, PBC, etc., to continue having fighters who are with rival networks and rival promoters call them out. And these PBC and Mayweather fighters not answering the challenge, not stepping up. It's a bad look. It hurts their brand. They're probably too egotistical and stubborn to realize this, but it does. And in the long run, things will turn around. People will look at PBC and think, nah, their fighters are not really that good. If they were, why are they always putting obstacles in the way when it comes to doing these cross-promotional fights? And it may not seem that way at the moment, but I think that's the way things are going. Because if you look at Tank Davis, who's he fighting anyway? Who's this guy fighting? He hasn't fought Teofimo Lopez. He hasn't fought Devin Haney. And of course, he hasn't fought Ryan Garcia. He hasn't even fought George Kambosos. So who's this guy fighting? Yeah? I think that it's good for Garcia to call out Tank Davis because, again, if Davis doesn't answer the challenge, then it kind of makes Ryan Garcia look better, if you get what I'm saying. So it's good for him to do that. Not just for clout, but I'm assuming he actually wants to fight. And I know that there was a time a while ago, maybe a couple years ago, whenever it was, when Oscar De La Hoya said that he wouldn't put Ryan Garcia in against Tank Davis. Well, that was back then, when Ryan Garcia wasn't as perhaps confident or mature as a fighter as he is now. So I think that for Ryan Garcia, if the Tank Davis fight can't be made and he's not willing to come down to 135, then he should concentrate on trying to get a Josh Taylor fight or fight for a vacant belt at 140. Or if he does think he can make 135 again, then the Devin Haney fight will be much easier to make, presumably, right? Because Oscar De La Hoya and Bob Arum do still work together. And if Devin Haney manages to beat George Kambosos again and rejoins DAZN and Eddie Hearn, as it seems like he might do, then that's basically a even easier situation because both guys in, Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia would be on DAZN. So that would be an easier fight to make. And as I've said before already, ESPN, Bob Arum Top Rank do seem to work relatively well with Oscar De La Hoya. And therefore, you could have the Teofimo Lopez fight. I know Lopez doesn't have a belt currently, but it still would be a big fight. So the answer, I'm laboring the point here, but the answer would be to just make Tank Davis irrelevant. If he wants to do all that cross the street stuff, that's okay. The difference in the 135-pound division and the 140-pound division is that Al Heyman, PBC, even Mayweather Promotions, they don't really have the number of fighters in these divisions at the top level that they do at, let's say, 147, where they've got a near monopoly. They don't have that going on at 135 or 140. So let Tank Davis do what he's doing. Yeah, if you call him out and he don't step up to the challenge, let him make himself irrelevant, fighting people that nobody cares about. While you get in there and you fight a Devin Haney, a Teofimo Lopez, a George Kambosos, etc. You see it? That's my take on the situation. Give me your take in the comment section below. Will Gervonta Davis step up to the plate and actually take on Ryan Garcia? And also, let me know whether you think it's fair for Mayweather to ask for Ryan Garcia to come back down to 135. Do you think that's a fair thing? Maybe it is a fair thing. I'm not saying it necessarily isn't fair, but there's arguments that could be made each way, right? Both ways, because again, Tank Davis has fought at 140 before and then come back down to 135. But Ryan Garcia just fought at 140 in his last fight, and he's seemingly a bigger guy than Tank Davis. This is a guy who's 5'10". Tank Davis is 5'5". And obviously height doesn't necessarily mean that a guy is going to struggle at the weight. There are some tall, skinny guys who make their weight very easy. And the opposite of that, you get some short, squat guys with a Tank Davis type build who struggle at the weight. So it isn't necessarily indicative of who's going to struggle more because one guy's taller than the other. But with that being said, you would think in most cases, a guy like Ryan Garcia would have a higher ceiling in terms of the weight that he's going to end up at. And the fact that Mayweather wants Garcia to come down in weight suggests that they think Ryan Garcia is a very, very big 135-pounder, really struggling to make 135, perhaps struggling more than Tank Davis. That's why they're not keen for Tank Davis to go up to 140 and fight Garcia there. You see it? Anyway, let me know how you guys feel. If you're tired of the biased narratives and mass censorship on mainstream platforms, and you want to be part of a community of critical thinkers who love free speech just as much as you do, then come and join me on Patreon and access my weekly no-holds-barred, censorship-free podcast where we lift the lid on a wide variety of controversial topics. It's not mainstream friendly, it's not politically correct, but that's the whole point. We dare to stand as a beacon of reason against an army of insanity. Just head on over to my Patreon page and select the tier called Hatman Hot Topics. You'll gain access to a minimum of 2 hours of exclusive content every single week, including podcasts, videos, interviews, live stream Q&As, as well as my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. Not to mention a vast back catalog of hundreds of hours of previous episodes. You can listen via the Patreon app with the option to download in high quality MP3. We've also got an Element group where you can come and chat and hang out with myself and other members. Unlike Discord, it has full end-to-end encryption, is decentralized, and is 100% censorship free. You can also send voice notes as well as much larger audio and video files than you can on Discord. So come and sign up on Patreon. There's no contract, there's no commitment, you can cancel at any time, and it's cheaper than a cup of coffee. So I'll see you over there. I'm out.